I don't think there's any more doubt as to who should start at 197 pounds for Penn State after Josh Barr dominated at the Black Knight Invitational.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko. I am your host of the show. This is an instant reaction to the Army Black Knight Invitational where Penn State expectedly dominated, but more importantly, Penn State did get some answers about the lineup and honestly some questions with that 157-pound result. So this is going to be a rapid response to what Penn State was able to accomplish at the Sunday tournament up at West Point, starting with 197, because that was one heck of a performance by Josh Barr. And that should be the biggest takeaway here. You do not get any more clarification than that. I know that Josh Barr and Lucas Cochran have been close to that point, but if they were so close, this would not be a 10-1 major decision. So that was the biggest result here of the day, is the fact that Josh Barr made it clear. And 11, it's not only that he had a 10-1 major decision against Cochran in the finals where they met. They were on a crash course to face each other. But it was also defeating fellow Penn State teammate, true freshman, who I have high expectations for. I've made that very clear on this show. Connor Mirasola in the semifinal. Josh Barr showed that there is a wide gap between not only Lucas Cochran, but Connor Mirasola as well. And I know that Penn State has the plan to redshirt Connor Mirasola, and it is clear Mirasola does have a longer way to go. And there's, as good as he is on the freestyle circuit, which we have seen, there is a lot for him to learn at folk style. Josh Barr, an 11-0 major decision over Mirasola, a shutout victory, and then 10-1 with some near fall, right? It was so close to getting a pin. The exclamation point against Lucas Cochran, who he is going up actively for this starting spot. I mean, Josh Barr, his defense might be one of the best. I won't say the best. One of the best in that 197-pound weight class overall. It is tough to score on Josh Barr. It is tough to get away from Josh Barr when he is on top. So he had 2 minutes of riding time going into he rode out Lucas Cochran the entirety of that second period. So Josh Barr's game offensively is going to, need to continue to perfect some things, but defensively, I have no critiques. I have no criticism. Josh Barr did everything to impress me. And it is clear as day from my point of view that he should be the starter at 197 pounds. I won't go to say that, he's a surefire national title contender, but he is definitely a surefire All-America contender with the opportunity to get some upsets and maybe put himself into the semifinal and the final, because better days are ahead for Josh Barr. Josh Barr is just a redshirt freshman. And these kind of performances now early on in the season, he's only going to stack these and improve and reach his potential. He's number 23 according to Intermat. That needs to change very soon, but 197 gets a ton of clarity. But that's my reaction to 197 pounds in a nutshell. Not only did Josh Barr defeat fellow elite teammates, he won as convincingly as possible. 2 major decisions and only 1 point scored between Mirasola and Cochran. Josh Barr is the 197-pound starter in my mind at this point. And now we get, just as soon as we get an answer, we get another huge question mark here. 157 pounds, Tyler Kasak makes this all the more interesting. This is another weight class that is an open competition. It is close. Alex Facundo returns. Took the original red shirt, then takes the Olympic red shirt. Now he's back and he's trying to make his way into the starting lineup. And why I say it's still a question, because the jury's still out whether or not Facundo or Kasak should be the starter. I don't come away from this matchup thinking, okay, Kasak won 5-2, and that's an incredible result. Another a convincing victory. It wasn't a dominant victory, but he was in control for most of the time, had the controlled riding time and everything else. And to win 5-2, that's a decisive victory. So he was able to fend off Facundo in the final frame to make sure that he didn't surrender a takedown. All these Penn State wrestlers are extremely good at defense that across the board here. So Kasak extends this conversation, whereas I feel like Josh Barr has put it to rest. For Kasak and Facundo, this is going to go on for a little bit here, a little bit longer. I think the coaches have a lot more questions about 157 than anything else in this case. So Kasak winning decisively, showed really good defense. Maybe he doesn't need to redshirt. If he's the better wrestler at 157, you don't just redshirt somebody just for the fun of it, right? That is not Penn State's objective here. There needs to be a clear distance between to say that Facundo is better at 157, and it makes sense in the process to redshirt Tyler Kasak, preserve that eligibility, allow him to develop. But if Kasak's the better wrestler and is going to be a better contender at 157 than Facundo is, then it really does complicate things. Redshirt aside, what logically makes sense is, of course, because Facundo has taken 2 redshirts now, he's developed as much as he could early on in his wrestling career. But if Kasak is better, you go with Kasak. But there was that rumored preseason matchup where Facundo won decisively as well. That's why it gets a little more interesting. Okay, so now point Facundo, but most recently point Kasak. So this one's going to keep going on and on for a little bit, but Penn State has to decide sooner rather than later, because at some point you do need to make the decision, okay, who is going to be the starter moving forward and everything else. You can't, and Kasak cannot maintain a red shirt if he competes, because that's only for the freshmen. That is only for freshmen, true freshmen, where you get to wrestle 5 matches and you get to preserve your red shirt. That's not the case for Kasak. If they do roll him out into a dual meet, he's not going to have the opportunity of redshirt this season. So I think we will see Facundo in the near future as that starter still at 157, but that does not mean he's the full-time starter moving forward. But it is closer than ever. Kasak is making this very interesting. He is not going down. He is not going down lightly. He is not just saying, okay, well, it makes sense for me to redshirt. Facundo's back. No, he is proving that he just might be the better wrestler, but I don't know for sure. That's my ultimate takeaway here, is I don't know for sure. We'll have a full recap and kind of go through more of the results here. Another instant reaction from all of this. 125. This is where we will finish up in this instant recap. Luke Lilledahl is as good as advertised, great as advertised, elite as advertised. Able to knock out fellow teammate Kurt McHenry, who was vying for that starting spot. At least you can't just hand the starting job over to Luke Lilledahl. Aside from all the accolades, the prestige, everything that he's done on the world stage, I understand that. But then you kind of create this... The coaches want to avoid, and I know that Luke Lilledahl does not operate this way, but the sense of entitlement. You are now a Penn State wrestler. You have not earned anything to this point. And just to hand over the starting spot to Lilledahl would have been wrong here. But now, I always knew, or at least had my hunches, that hey, Lilledahl is going to be the guy at 125. It is good to see that there is competition, that it's not just being handed over to Lilledahl, that Kurt McHenry is going to make this interesting here. But we all kind of suspected that this was Lilledahl's spot to lose. In the semifinals, knocked out Kurt McHenry, 8-2, convincing decision win. And then to go up against the number 21 ranked wrestler at 125 and win by tech fall, 19-4. Charlie Farmer of Army had no chance. That is Lightning Luke. That is Luke Lilledahl's potential, full potential on display, to go up in his first matches of his young career and get a tech fall, win convincingly against somebody that he spars with, that he knows very well as an opponent, as a teammate in Kurt McHenry, and then a tech fall against a top 25 wrestler at the weight class, Luke Lilledahl. Certainly is a title contender at 125 pounds, and he already showed that at the Army Black Knight Invitational. That's going to do it here for this instant reaction. Again, more on the way because Bo Bartlett won. Mitchell Messenbrink won. We didn't get to see Carter Starachi and Zach Ryder wrestle hypothetically in those championships. Same thing with a Cole Mirasola and a Greg Kirkfleet, as Penn State opted not to wrestle those championships. But there were a lot of other interesting results and some good indications as far as where those other wrestlers are in their development, and just utter domination across the board from Bartlett, Messenbrink, Haynes, and Kirkfleet. athlete, as Starachi as well, as we all kind of knew at this point in time. My name is Zach Seyko. Thank you so much for checking out this instant recap of Penn State wrestling over at the Black Knight Invitational. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section about Penn State wrestling, what you think about the lineup, and if you think that Josh Barr still it has not locked it down. Do you think that Lucas Cochran can battle his way back, or is this a sure thing here? And what do you think about Facundo versus Kasak? I'm eager to get your thoughts as well in this conversation. Please leave a like on this episode. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams, including Penn State wrestling.